You know, it's strange. We live in a world that constantly tells us to reach out, to lean on others, to not carry everything alone. Therapists, coaches, influencers, and even our friends repeat it endlessly. Asking for help is strength, not weakness. And yet, there exists a certain type of person who almost never does. They are the ones who stay up until 3 a.m. trying to solve a problem rather than sending a single text. They are the ones who will carry impossible workloads, hide their stress behind a calm smile, and still ask, "How are you doing?" when they are the ones drowning. If you offer them help, they'll politely decline. If you insist, they'll change the subject. From the outside, people often assume they're stubborn, distant, or overly proud. Some even call them emotionally closed off. But the truth is far more complex. Their psychology is not built on arrogance, it is built on experience. Picture this. It's a quiet evening, the house is still. A person sits alone at their desk, eyes tired, mind racing, chest tight with unspoken pressure. There are messages on their phone, people who care about them, people who would help if they knew. But instead of reaching out, they stare at the wall for a moment, take a slow breath, and whisper internally, "I'll figure it out." No venting, no breakdown, no call for support, just silent endurance. Why? Because for them, asking for help does not feel natural, it feels dangerous. Psychologists often describe this pattern as extreme self-reliance, and for many people, it begins long before adulthood. Many of these individuals grew up in environments where help was inconsistent, unreliable, or simply not available. Perhaps they had parents who worked long hours. Perhaps they were emotionally neglected rather than physically abandoned. Maybe they were the mature child who learned to solve problems on their own while others depended on them. As children, they may have asked for help once, twice, maybe more, and each time they were met with dismissal, frustration, or disappointment. Over time, their brain learned a painful but powerful lesson. If I depend on others, I might get hurt. So instead of risking that pain again, they built a wall, not one of anger, but of independence. This doesn't mean they stopped needing people, it means they stopped trusting that people would truly be there. A study in the Journal of Adult Development found that individuals who rarely seek help tend to score high in emotional independence, but also report elevated internal stress levels. Interestingly, this stress does not come from isolation itself, it comes from the constant effort of carrying everything alone. They are not emotionally cold. In fact, they often feel deeply. They just don't feel safe expressing it. Over time, their brain creates a simple rule. If I handle everything myself, I won't be disappointed. That rule becomes a core part of their identity. You can see this in how they move through life. When something goes wrong, they don't panic, they don't blame others. They quietly assess the situation, create a plan, and push forward. They are incredibly capable in crises. They remain calm when others crumble. They find solutions where others see chaos. But beneath that calm lies exhaustion. Because self-reliance, when taken to an extreme, is not freedom, it is a burden. What makes their psychology even more fascinating is the paradox at its core. These people are often the first ones to help others. If a friend is struggling, they will drop everything to be there. If someone needs advice, they will listen patiently. If a family member is in trouble, they will step in without hesitation. They don't post about it, they don't seek praise, they simply act. Why are they so willing to help others but so unwilling to accept help themselves? Because they know what it feels like to be alone in a difficult moment. Their refusal to ask for help is not about superiority, it is about control. If they handle things themselves, they don't have to depend on anyone who might let them down. They don't have to risk vulnerability. They don't have to expose their pain to the possibility of rejection. Cognitive psychologists call this protective detachment, a mental strategy where emotional distance is used as a shield rather than a weapon. It is not cruelty, it is caution. Many of these individuals grew up in what researchers describe as low-support environments. That doesn't always mean abuse or neglect. Sometimes it simply means their caregivers were emotionally unavailable, stressed, or overwhelmed themselves. Perhaps they were told things like, "Stop crying, you'll be fine," or "Don't be dramatic." Over time, they internalized the belief that their emotions were a burden to others. As children, they learned to swallow their feelings rather than express them. As adults, that habit becomes deeply ingrained. This is why asking for help feels so uncomfortable to them. It is not just about needing assistance, it is about exposing a part of themselves they were taught to hide. Their brain associates vulnerability with danger. Interestingly, this same upbringing often makes them incredibly resilient. They are the ones who stay composed under pressure. They are the ones who think 3 steps ahead. They are the ones who rarely crumble in emergencies because they have spent their entire lives preparing for worst-case scenarios. Psychologists sometimes refer to this as defensive pessimism, a mindset where individuals expect things to go wrong not because they are negative, but because being mentally prepared protects them from disappointment. For them, hoping for the best feels naive, expecting the worst feels safer. You can see this in how they approach relationships as well. They are often deeply loyal, but emotionally guarded. They care about people, but they don't fully open up. They listen more than they speak. They support others, but rarely ask for support in return. When conflict arises, they don't explode in anger. Instead, they withdraw, not as punishment, but as protection. This is not because they don't want connection, it is because they fear that connection could be taken away. Another important aspect of their psychology is their relationship with control. People who never ask for help tend to have a strong internal locus of control, meaning they believe that their actions, not external forces, determine their outcomes. This belief makes them incredibly capable, but it also makes them harsh on themselves. If they fail, they don't blame others, they blame themselves. If they struggle, they don't seek comfort, they push harder. If they feel overwhelmed, they don't slow down, they endure. This mindset can lead to impressive achievements, but also to burnout. What makes this even more complex is that many of them genuinely do not realize how much they are carrying. They have normalized struggle. To them, stress is not an exception, it is a baseline. They might say things like, "Everyone goes through this," or "It's not that big a deal," even when they are clearly suffering. In relationships, this can create misunderstandings. Partners, friends, and family members may feel shut out. They may interpret their refusal to accept help as rejection, when in reality it is a deeply rooted defense mechanism. Their silence is not indifference, it is survival. From a neurological perspective, repeated experiences of having to cope alone can actually rewire the nervous system's stress response. Studies in trauma psychology suggest that individuals who grow up in low support environments often develop heightened self-reliance, but reduced trust in others. Their nervous system becomes accustomed to handling stress independently rather than seeking social support. This does not make them weaker. In many ways, it makes them stronger. But strength without support is exhausting. What makes their psychology even more fascinating is the interesting aspect of their perception. Before the digital age, many of these individuals learned to solve things on their own. They didn't have instant access to Google or YouTube tutorials. If something broke, they had to figure it out manually. They learned patience, problem-solving, and persistence. Cognitive psychologists describe this as deep encoding. When information requires effort to obtain, it becomes more deeply ingrained in memory. This is why many of them are skilled at fixing things, troubleshooting, and thinking critically. But it also reinforces their belief that they must handle everything alone. As they grow older, they watch younger generations navigate life in a very different way, with more support, more openness about mental health, and more willingness to ask for help. Sometimes they admire this. Other times they quietly worry that this openness makes people too dependent. But deep down, what they often fail to realize is that they too deserve support. Because here is the paradox. The people who never ask for help are often the ones who need it the most. They carry silent burdens that others never see. They solve problems behind the scenes. They keep families together, workplaces running, and friendships intact, all while struggling quietly inside. They are not heroes by choice. They became strong because they had to. And yet, their greatest challenge is learning that needing help does not make them weak. It makes them human. Their journey is not about becoming less independent. It is about learning that independence and interdependence can coexist. They do not need to abandon their strength. They need to realize that strength also includes vulnerability. Because the truth is simple but profound. No one is meant to carry everything alone. Even the strongest people need support. Even the most capable individuals deserve care. And for those who never ask for help, the bravest step they can take is not solving another problem, but allowing someone else to walk beside them. So if this resonates with you, if you recognize yourself in this description, know this: you are not a burden for needing help. You are not weak for asking, and you do not need to prove your worth through silent suffering. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply say, "I need help." And maybe, just maybe, you'll find that the world is more willing to support you than you were ever taught to believe. If this hit home for you, consider subscribing for more deep psychological insights. And if you want to support these explorations, joining the channel would mean a lot.